Tombstone
in vino veritas
has actual spoken Latin
credat Judaea sotella non ego,
uttered by the great late Val Kilmer. In this video, we're going to talk about the Latin spoken by these gunslingers from the West and exactly how good it really is. I'm Luke, and this is polýMATHY. Now, if you want to learn the Latin language, then you absolutely want to take classes with us at the Ancient Language Institute, which is this video's sponsor. At the Ancient Language Institute, we teach you these ancient languages: Latin, Ancient Greek, Biblical Hebrew, and Old English. By the way, my friend and colleague Colin Gorey, he wrote this incredible book, Oswald Bera, which is what he uses, as well as the other faculty at Ancient Language Institute, to teach the Old English language. But we teach you Old English, we teach you Latin, we teach you Ancient Greek and Biblical Hebrew. And we do that through an immersive method, a reading method where we read text together, we analyze it, we talk about it in the target language as much as we possibly can. And little by little, as you pass from the beginner to the intermediate stage, soon all of your classes will be entirely in that language. You have to sign up though by April 12th. That's only a week away, so that you can be a part of the summer session for new cohorts in all 4 languages. And we also offer intermediate as well as advanced lessons in all those languages and private tutoring as well. And if you want to learn more, you need to go to ancientlanguage.com and also take advantage, if you can, of Plato Camp, this year's Greek immersion camp, which will be in North Carolina. That's going to be an incredible experience where some of ALI's best teachers are going to be guiding you through the experience of a whole 10 days of spoken ancient Greek, given the opportunity to feel and live the language, and thus, of course, what is our goal? To become better readers. So, see all that at ancientlanguage.com today. As for Tombstone, well, there is a reason I thought it appropriate to talk about this video, and that's because Val Kilmer, great actor. I'm, of course, as you know, a pilot. I was a pilot in the military, so, great movies like Top Gun and Iceman. These are important roles that, of course, Val Kilmer has played. But in 1993, he played the historical figure of Doc Holliday in the movie Tombstone. And this movie has had a great impact on a number of people. In fact, my colleague and friend Jackson Crawford made a video honoring Val Kilmer's contribution to this culture that we enjoy, and I'm playing at a little bit today. In fact, I have Jackson Crawford to thank for helping me find this fantastic hat in Colorado. Thank you very much, Jackson. So let's talk about this Latin that is spoken by Doc Holliday.
in vino veritas.
Age quod agis.
So Doc Holliday, educated man, using Latin. But why is he doing that? Well, Wyatt Earp is saying, hey, he's drunk, don't pay him no mind. But he's saying, no, I mean what I say. And he's saying,
in vino veritas.
in vino veritas. That's more of a classical Latin pronunciation. And of course, he's using that V sound, very typical of the Latin pronunciation of yesteryear. Using an ecclesiastical pronunciation was somewhat common in the English-speaking world, or in fact, an English pronunciation, traditional English pronunciation. Most of those really aren't favored nearly as often in the English-speaking world anymore. The classical Latin pronunciation, or something akin to it, is much more common these days, but no problem for me. In vino veritas, that'd be a little classical Latin way to say in vino veritas. That was the more ecclesiastical pronunciation. Now, the response from Johnny Ringo is, of course,
Age quod agis.
age quod agis. And he says, age quod agis. Using that ecclesiastical pronunciation again, I have no problem with that. I'm just giving you the alternatives today. Now, what he means by this is do what you are doing. And I think that the writers were getting at you drinking this alcoholic beverage there, you keep on doing that. That's what you're good at. I think that's what they were going for. Not totally clear to me if that was the intent. In fact, we'll see that the phrases that these actors are saying are really just some common aphorisms, except for this age quod agis, age quod agis. I haven't found that anywhere. Maybe that exists in some sort of a common later medieval or Renaissance Latin usage that I haven't seen. Whereas in vino veritas, that one's very common, and we've heard all that. Well, let's see about another.
Credat Judaea sotella non ego.
And then Doc Holliday says, Credat Judaea Isabella non ego. Well, what is that supposed to mean? Literally, it means, may this fella named Apella, and he's a Jew, the Jew named Apella, may he believe, presumably what you just said, not I. What on earth is this about? This is from Sermones 1:5 by Horace, and it is a reference, and we're going to talk a little about that poem later on, but that's what he's starting with here. That's another little piece of literature. So my impression is they're not really talking in Latin so much as they're using Latin quotes that are sort of appropriate for the verbal sparring that is going on between them. Not two fluent Latin-speaking men, and we wouldn't expect that either. We would expect people with Doc Holliday for sure, Johnny Ringo, who knows if he actually had the chance to historically study any Latin. But if he had, he would, just know a few quotes here and there. For example, this one.
Juventus stultorum magister.
Juventus stultorum magister. Magister, that means teacher. Juventus, that means youth. So you have youth, Juventus, and teacher, magister. They are in a sort of apposition. They are both on the nominative, so there's an equivalency that is put between them. That one equals the other, more or less, in this sentence. So you have youth is a teacher of whom? Stultorum, of fools. So youth is the teacher of fools. That's a retort. Does that really make sense here? Maybe not for exactly what Doc Holliday just said there, but it was something to retort. So it might be a way to say, hey, you're just a fool. Where do you get your knowledge from? Or he's trying to say, I'm the younger guy now. I'm the best gun in the West now. And you better watch out because my youth is my teacher and it's made me foolish or crazy. You gotta watch out for me. I'm not really sure what he was going for, but I think it's mildly appropriate.
Pace Requiescat.
And of course, old Doc Holliday gets the last word saying, in pace requiescat, or in the ecclesiastical pronunciation, in pace requiescat. And this just means rest in peace. That is the Latin way to say that. In peace may he rest. Clearly, it is a barely veiled threat. Like, I'm going to kill you. I hate you.
I'm sure of it. I hate him.
That's what Doc Holliday's saying to this guy. So these are their only lines. They're not really talking to each other in the sense that they are spontaneously speaking as they do to one another in English. They're quoting certain phrases from Latin, mostly to show their education, that are mildly appropriate. I say they're a lot wittier and quicker on the draw than I am when it comes to that sort of thing. So good on them, good on these characters. Now let's just talk very briefly about this reference to Credat Judaeus appella non ego. What is that about? Well, that is from Horace, Book 1, number 5 of the Sermones, his satires. And, the last lines of the poem are relevant. Here is the whole thing, along with my translation here. So, postera tempestas melior, via peior adusque, bari moenia piscosi. What does that mean? That's the next day. We had better weather, but the road was worse, all the way to fishy Bari's walls. In this particular poem, Horace is talking about a trip that he and Virgil and other friends of theirs were taken down to southern Italy, to Apulia, Puglia in modern Italian today. He continues to say, Degnati Olympis irati sextructa dedit. Then Ganesha, which was made by angry water nymphs, dedit risus queocosque. Give us laughter and joy. And by the way, what kind of meter is this? This is dactylic hexameter. This is the heroic meter. And using this meter for a kind of funny story is, there's a certain satirical quality in that itself. Tu flamma sine, tu raliquescere limene sacro, persuadere cupit. And it wanted to persuade, this is the city of Ganesha, and it wanted to persuade that incense liquefies on the holy threshold without flame. Now, in this story, Horace is complaining about how hot, how dry it is, hence the water nymphs were not a part of the construction of Ganesha, or they certainly weren't helping it along, giving it the water that the city might actually need. So very hot, very dry, and so hot that the incense was melting, which it normally would with flame in a temple or on the temple steps. It was just melting right there in the sun, on the stone, probably a lot like frying an egg on the flat side of an Arizona rock in the middle of August. Now, the key line here is credat Iudaius Apella. So who is Apella? I don't know. I tried to find, I guess he was some credulous Iudaius according to Horace, and maybe it was a common saying to use Apella in this way. I don't know. I haven't really found anything on that. But the point of all that is what follows. Non ego, not I, nam quedeos didici, secura gereaebum. Let Apella the Jew believe that, not I, for I've learned that the gods live a carefree existence. Nec siquid miri faciat natura. And if nature effects a miraculous event, Deo si tristis exalto caeli demitere tecto. Here's not the gloomy gods sending them down from their high heavenly home. What is the point here? Well, the more educated or elite of Horace's time didn't believe in divine intervention from the gods the way that maybe some credulous types did, especially Romans in earlier times might have believed. But of course the Jews, especially ones that came in contact with the Romans, were highly religious, and they believed that God had an effect on everything going on in the world. So what we can imagine Horace is referencing here is the idea that at that temple, the gods themselves are the ones that melt the incense. Without flame, it's a miracle. And of course, it's just because it's real hot outside and there's not a lot of shade. And thus Horace is casting doubt or making fun of people that he regards as more superstitious, whether the Iudaius Apella, or even perhaps superstitious Romans who still believed that the Greco-Roman gods were involving themselves in the daily activities of the world. Well, that is my assessment of this. How does it really fit into what Doc Holliday is saying there? Frankly, I'm not entirely sure. It just seems like a clever line that was kind of sort of appropriate and worked for his character to say in that moment. I'm not really sure, but I'd love to hear from you down below. I'd love to hear your interpretations. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching this video, sharing it. Thank you to each and every one of my Patreon supporters. Thanks so much, of course, to the Ancient Language Institute. And I'll just leave you all with Walete. Now let me get back into the accent, all that.